In this video, we're going to talk about the role that strategy has in a changing global environment. In today's global environment, which changes constantly, strategy obviously plays a critical role in ensuring that an organization is successful long term. Why is that? Well, a well-defined strategy is what helps an organization navigate through all those complexities of global markets, adapt to technological advancements, and respond to those constant competitive pressures. A successful strategy requires aligning the organization's goals with external opportunities and threats. This requires a deep understanding of that global environment, including things like economic trends, changes in laws and regulations, cultural differences, and changes and innovations in tech. For example, a company that is wanting to expand into a new country, before doing that, they have to have some strategy. They have to consider local regulations, customer preferences, all the different competitors that operate there. They have to know these things to develop an effective entry strategy. In a changing global environment, that's more difficult. Organizations, they have to be agile. They have to constantly reassess their strategies so they can stay ahead of the competition and meet the needs of their customers that are always changing. Now let's talk about analyzing core competences and global expansion. First, let's talk about the term core competences. That's a fancy phrase, but that's basically just those unique strengths and abilities that give an organization a competitive advantage. It's what they're competent at. It's those core competences. It's these competences that are typically difficult for competitors to imitate. This can include things like special knowledge, specialized skills, new technologies that are hard to replicate, or processes that enable the organization to deliver value to customers. If it's something just basic, anybody can copy it. But if it's a core strength, a core competence, it becomes much more difficult to replicate. When expanding globally, organizations have to leverage those core competences to enter new markets and establish a strong presence. For example, if you're a company and you're known for your cutting-edge, innovative technology, you might use that competence to differentiate yourself in foreign markets by offering products or services that are technologically superior and more innovative than those of the local competitors. However, global expansion also requires adapting core competences to meet the needs of the local market conditions. This might involve things like modifying products to suit local tastes, adjusting marketing strategies to align with the cultural norms, or developing new competences that are relevant specifically to that new market. By carefully analyzing and adapting their core competences, organizations can successfully expand that global footprint, all while maintaining the competitive edge. Now let's examine functional, business, and corporate level strategies. Full disclosure, when I was an MBA student, for some reason, it was this topic that always confused me. And it was just a bunch of corporate jargon. So I'm going to try to break it down in a way that makes sense because it's really not that complicated. And I think sometimes in grad school, we make things a little more complicated than they need to be in the name of academia. Tangent over. First, let's talk about functional level strategies. Think about functional level. This is at the level of the function. Specifically, when we talk about functional level strategies, this is where we're focusing our strategy around how specific functions in an organization, like marketing, operations, finance, how these functions can be optimized in order to support that overarching business strategy. It's these strategies that are concerned with improving efficiency and effectiveness, and here's the key, within each function. So we want to make each function, like marketing, operations, and finance, as efficient and as effective as we possibly can. That's why it's called a functional level strategy. We're focusing on the function. As an example, a marketing department, they might develop a strategy to increase brand awareness through digital campaigns. While the operations department, they're focused on very different things. They might be focused on reducing production costs. Next, let's talk about business level strategies. Business level strategies are strategies that are concerned with how an organization competes within a specific industry or a market. Think about this as the business level stuff, right? So functional level strategy is kind of down here. We're focused on the function. Business level is more up here. These are strategies that are going to determine how the organization positions itself against competitors, and that can be through things like cost leadership, differentiation, or a focus strategy. For example, a company might pursue a differentiation strategy by offering unique products that command a premium price, like Apple. So at the business level here, we're looking at those specific facets. Now, kind of consider corporate level is up here. This is kind of like the overarching umbrella. Corporate level strategies involve decisions about the overall scope and direction of the organization. This includes determining which markets or industries the organization should compete in, whether they should pursue diversification, and how they should allocate resources across the different business units. A corporate level strategy might involve acquiring new business to enter a related industry or divest, meaning split off, a business unit that no longer aligns with the organization's goals. Each of these strategies have to be aligned to ensure that the organization as a whole is moving all in the same direction and working towards common objectives. And now let's talk about that relationship between strategy and organizational structure. Because believe it or not, they do have a strong relationship. The relationship between strategy and how an organization is structured, it's critical, more than you may think. It's critical to achieving the organization's effectiveness. Why? Because the structure of an organization has to be designed specifically in a way that supports the implementation of that business's strategy. If there's a mismatch between strategy and structure, it's going to be a hot mess. You've got inefficiencies, poor communication, miscommunication, misalignment. You're going in different directions, and as a result, you're going to fail to achieve your goals. I'll give you an example. A company that's pursuing a global expansion strategy, they probably need to adopt a decentralized structure. Now, as a refresher, when we talk about centralization, we refer to where power is held in an organization. An organization that is highly centralized holds that power at the top. It's central. It's in one spot at the top of the hierarchy of authority. An organization that's more decentralized, however, they spread the wealth. They share that authority down the hierarchy of authority. So if you're a company, and again, you're trying to expand into global markets, you can't really be centralized. You can't let all the decision-making authority be held here. In this situation, you got to spread the love. You have to allow your regional managers some authority. You have to give them autonomy to make decisions because they're the ones that have to be responsive to local market conditions. So you have to decentralize. So the organizational structure influences how quickly and effectively an organization can respond to changes in the environment. A flexible, adaptive structure is essential for organizations that operate in those constantly changing dynamic industries because that allows them to pivot their strategy quickly in response to new opportunities or new threats. By aligning structure with strategy, organizations can ensure that their resources are effectively deployed and they are well positioned to achieve their goals. Now let's talk about implementing strategies across different countries. Doing this requires a deep understanding of the unique challenges and opportunities that each market presents. These challenges can include things like differences in culture, variations in laws and regulations, and even differences in customer preferences. Think about it. If you drink a Coca-Cola in the United States, it's going to taste different than if you drink a Coca-Cola in Mexico because of that difference in preferences. One approach to implementing strategies globally is to adopt what is called a multi-domestic strategy. And with a multi-domestic strategy, an organization customizes its products, marketing, and operations to suit the specific needs of each country. This approach allows for greater responsiveness to specifically local conditions. Now, the downside though, this of course obviously can lead to higher costs because you're customizing things. Alternatively, organizations might pursue a global strategy. This is where they offer standardized products and services. They're not tweaking, they're not personalizing, they're not customizing. It's all the same, standard across all markets. And they do that so they can leverage economies of scale. And that's a fancy way of saying they can save money. This approach is more cost effective, but it might not fully address those unique needs of each market. Now, another option is a transnational strategy. This seeks to balance those approaches. So it's not all standard, it's not all customized, but it's right here in the middle. With a transnational strategy, organizations are standardizing certain elements of the business, but they still allow for some local adaptations when it makes sense. For example, a company might standardize those core product offerings, but allow for variations in marketing or customer service. And those are the things that cater to local preferences. Successful implementation of global strategies also requires effective coordination and communication across different regions. So it's really important that everybody's talking to each other and communicating. And to do this, it often involves establishing regional headquarters, appointing local managers who have a deep market knowledge, or creating cross-border teams to ensure alignment and collaboration. By carefully considering those specific conditions of each market and choosing the appropriate strategy, organizations can be effective in achieving their goals.